Good morning, everyone. This is episode 11 of the Off Topical podcast. My name is Gardiner.
My name is Raven.
We got some awesome stuff on the show today. Valve have added 39 new games to the SteamPlay Proton whitelist. Plus, Microsoft buys Obsidian and In Exile Entertainment. What does this mean for gaming on Linux? And Lunduke announces he's leaving social media. We give our hot takes. What do you think, man?
Sure. Sounds good to me.
But first, if you're watching this on YouTube, then there's a good chance that you haven't subscribed to the audio feed of this podcast. Part of the reason I wanted to do the podcast in the first place was to get away from Google's proprietary systems like YouTube, for example. So if you're so inclined, if you listen to other podcasts, head over to offtopical.net and subscribe to our audio feed. It's awesome, and we're growing a growing, burgeoning community over there. So come check us out, offtopical.net. All right, the first story today. There are some outlets that actually got access to the PS Classic, and they're reporting that it's kind of a bare bones experience. What do you think about this, man?
You know, I heard about this. What was it? I think it was last week. And I was, honestly, you know, I'm not really very surprised. I mean, you would think that, you know, Sony, of all people, could remake a PlayStation 1, right? Like, I'm honestly surprised it's not just, you know, PlayStation 1 hardware with the hard drive attached to it. I'm actually surprised it's like, you know, an emulator and everything.
Yeah, I'm kind of torn about this because, first of all, they were the pioneers of prosecuting emulators.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they really went after Bleem, you know what I'm saying? And still, like, to this day, like, it's still illegal for you to download the BIOS so you can use your legally obtained discs to play, you know, on your computer. And it's like, how, I just don't understand how they're not hypocrites here for using PCSX rearmed as the emulator for this thing. I mean, that's like an off-the-shelf open source emulator. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. In fairness to them, though, that lawsuit is what led to emulation being legal, if I remember correctly, in the United States.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
so there was like a blessing in disguise. Like, yeah, they made it illegal for the BIOS to be downloaded, and it's like, whatever, I'll just dump it then. Screw you. Because it's legal in the United States to emulate your old games, especially now, since what we think we covered it last week in the podcast, that it's now even more legal to build emulators for like old games and hack DRM and stuff. So
yeah. But
back to the topic on hand, yeah, I kind of feel it's a little hypocritical. Also, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. Because I know the device is ARM, and I guess, you know, it makes sense. ARM devices are significantly more powerful than original PlayStation 1, and, you know, they just, you know, they can put that emulator anywhere, but they actually have their own emulator. And it works on the PlayStation Vita, it works on the PS4, it works on the PlayStation 3. So to me, it's surprising at all that they're even using rearmed. It actually makes me wonder if they actually might use the PCSX emulator. Even, honestly.
You're talking on the PlayStation 4?
Yeah, on any of their devices. It actually makes me wonder if they're using that or not. Because you have to remember, the PlayStation 4 actually uses a lot of open source stuff, for example.
Right. Well, they do have, like, I haven't looked at the PlayStation 4 specifically, but they, you know, whenever a company like Sony uses open source software, in the legal section of the settings menu, they'll often have the open source license, you know, spiel, right? And if you go in there, and this is how people knew that it was using PCSX rearmed, is they went and did that on the PS Classic edition. And the fact is that I haven't heard that that's what they're using on the PlayStation 4.
Oh, me either. I'm just wondering because, you know, if you invest all this time and money and resources, why wouldn't you just use your own? I just, to me, it's because like, I have a PlayStation Vita, and I love it, by the way. I'm really sad that Sony's not going to make another handheld. I love my PSP, and I love my PlayStation Vita. And, well, it also works on the PSP, actually, come to think of it. They have an emulator for there. So, you know, and I still sometimes play Metal Gear Solid on my PlayStation Vita. Love that game, by the way. Can't wait for the classic version. You know, I'm getting the classic just to play Metal Gear Solid 1. Like, I don't care too much about the other games. I'm like, eh. But, you know, whatever. So, and it works beautifully. So to me, it's weird that they're even using PCSX. I'm sure there's a reason for it, maybe. Or maybe there isn't a reason. I don't know.
I think the reason is that this is literally a slap together thing. Like, this was kind of a last minute idea, and they're like, all right, let's just buy, you know, some off the shelf hardware that we can put in a mold injected case and slap Linux on there with PCSX rearmed. I mean, that's probably what this is.
Probably. I mean, it makes sense in a way, because it's, you know, it's also possible that it's not even a slap together thing. It's also possible that they cut the development time of it short.
Yeah. So
they could hit the holiday season.
Probably.
Because, you know, it's weird it's not launching in November. It's weird it's launching December 3rd, which makes me think that, hey, they're just... Because, I mean, it's really odd to me that, like, they're not going to use a DualShock controller, like a PlayStation 1 DualShock controller. It's odd to me that they're not doing a whole lot of stuff, because they still own all the patents and the rights and everything to all this old stuff. So it's like, why are you not using DualShock controllers? That blows me away more than anything, and it's weird.
I have a couple of hypotheses about that. First of all, I think that they don't want to make a DualShock, like an original DualShock that has a USB on it. Like, they just don't want it to be a PC controller. Period. I bet you that, because that seems like a Sony thing to do. Like, oh, we just don't want to make a PC gamepad. And if we make a DualShock with a USB lead on the end, then people are going to, like, you know, write drivers for it, and we don't want that.
Well, you know,
that just seems totally, I don't know.
No, you actually make a good point on that, because you look at the cost of a PlayStation 4 controller. You know, I have an original PlayStation 4 controller, and it's kind of heavy. Not like super heavy, obviously. It's, you know, it's very light to pick up, but I mean, it's got some weight to it. And if you notice that the new PlayStation 4 controllers are really light and feel more flimsy, but they're still like $60. I mean, if they make them of the same quality as, say, like a PlayStation 4 controller, obviously without all the, you know, the stuff that makes a PlayStation 4 controller, you know, a PlayStation 4 controller. Like, we don't need all the added crap that's in there. Just a normal controller. You know, a PlayStation Classic would be a pretty cheap way of getting not only a PlayStation Classic, but also two really cheap but very decent controllers.
Yeah.
Especially if they sell the controllers separately. It's like, yeah, I'll buy that.
Right. You know, the other thing, and this, it might be a lot of engineering for them to also make DualShocks that, you know, because first of all, if you look at the pinout of the actual DualShock controllers, like, there's a 5-volt lead, there's a 19-volt lead, there's a ton of like extra power consumption going on with the DualShock, because, you know, the way that they designed it, it just requires that. So I don't think that it would be as simple as just putting a USB cable on it and calling it a day. Like, I think there would be like some actual engineering that had to go behind it, and it just wasn't worth it for them.
I mean, that's possible. But, you know, they're just such a large company, and it's what they do literally for money. So I don't really know if it would truly be, you know, that much of an ordeal for them. It's possible. I mean, I don't know what team's working on it. You know, they're a big company. I don't know how experienced they are. You know, they could have just brought in a bunch of, you know, new people and been like, this is your project. And they're like, what?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they announced that this was coming out like a month ago, right? And it's like, it's going to be released December 3rd. So it's like...
Yeah, which means it's basically done. Like, they've already finished it.
Right. So I basically see this as like, this was a last minute thought. It's like, hey, how can we like make some quick money? Like, I don't think it was in their engineering budget. Plus, also, the other thing is that, like, if it was using like a DualShock, I feel like it wouldn't feel retro enough.
I suppose, but you know, we both had a PlayStation as a kid.
Yeah.
And yes, the DualShock controller did come at the very end of the, because like what it was like 1999 or 2000, early 2000,
right,
when Ape Escape came out. You know what? I'm gonna look that up so I can be right and don't get yelled at by people on YouTube. Because I can't ever. It came out in 1999. 99. Ape Escape came out May 31st. So the DualShock literally came out like right at the tail end, just about, of like, you know, because what the PlayStation 2 came out 2000.
Yeah.
Well, for us, it came out October 26th, March 4th in Japan. And Ape Escape was like the game where it was like, you can't play this game if you don't have a DualShock.
Right.
And so I can kind of understand it because for most of its life, you didn't need a DualShock. But a lot of those old games, well, I guess some of them never did work with the DualShock because there was no way to patch them to work with it. I mean, you could still use it, obviously. It's just the pads didn't work.
Right.
On some of the games. I think Metal Gear Solid worked with the DualShock, actually. If you had one.
Yeah.
I just, for the longest time, up until I got Ape Escape, I just had the traditional one. But I'm just thinking about, what's the game that's coming, like Rainbow, what was it, Rainbow Six? That's coming with the PlayStation Classic?
Where is that?
Where's the list? I'm trying to remember the list.
I don't have the list here.
Oh, no, this doesn't have the list.
Oh, yeah, here we go. Yeah, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six.
Yeah. That game is really hard to play, in my opinion, without a DualShock.
Yeah. See, this is I think I said this in the last time we talked about the PlayStation Classic, but I feel like this and the N64 Classic, if that ever comes to fruition, are going to be hard sells. Because maybe not hard sells, but like people are going to get their hands on these, you know, first generation 3D consoles and be like, oh, this controls like crap.
I know, right?
Like everything, like unless it's like the PlayStation 1 was well suited for 2D games and was just kind of, you know, breaking into 3D games. Like the kind of games that I played were like Tony Hawk and like not Call of Duty, but Medal of Honor and like that kind of stuff. And what's the other one? Siphon Filter and stuff like that.
That was fun. Yeah.
And like, nope, they hadn't figured out the formula yet. They hadn't figured out how to actually control things in 3D, even with 2 control sticks.
Oh yeah, 3D was in its infancy at that point. That's why I'm amazed Metal Gear Solid is so impressive.
I know, right?
Because it has so much depth and story and great cutscenes. Everything's in-game. There's no FMVs. Well, there are FMVs in the game, but for the most part, the game, like all the in-game cutscenes, are not FMVs.
Right.
So, you know, and for those that don't know, that stands for full motion video. We're old.
We are.
So
we are old.
I mean, you know, it's just a little, you know, tidbit. You know, the first Resident Evil, like just to give an example as to how, you know, game developers, you know, did stuff back then. If you play the first Resident Evil, there are things in the game which are actually full motion videos that you're running around and you're watching them, because that was how, like, I forget where it is, but one great example is like there's a part where there's like some flies buzzing around on the screen. Yeah, that's a full motion video just playing right there, because how else are you supposed to do it?
Yeah,
it was cheap. It was cheaper and faster to take advantage, because, you know, the Sony PlayStation was a little slower than the N64, but it made up for it with way better sound chip. I mean, the sound that little thing could put out was incredible at the time. Yeah. I mean, I still get goosebumps whenever the opening plays. The intro. You should totally put that in there so everyone can hear it, by the way, if you can find it online. I'm sure you can. I actually have the PlayStation Classic opening on my PS4, so whenever I launch it, I hear that lovely intro. Nice. Yeah, it's great.
I have that too.
Right? It's awesome. It's great.
It's great.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that's one of the things that's preserved here.
Oh, if it's not preserved, I'm gonna claw my face. It's terrible.
One of the other things that people were reporting on was the fact that these are some of the games, not all of them, are European versions and not the American, like the North American version.
That's interesting. don't really care too much about it, but that's interesting. I mean, because in this day and age, and it's an emulator, it really doesn't matter. Like, meh.
I'm going to make a prediction. This is going to be released. Hackers, you know, and nerdy folk like us are going to get our hands on it, disassemble it, and realize that these ROMs are literally ripped from just like the N64 or the original NES Classic Edition. Like these ISOs are going to be ripped, and they may be like obfuscated in some weird format, but I think like, you know, it'll be decoded really fast, and it's just going to be ripped ISOs.
You know what I would love to see?
From like MU Paradise or something.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to say.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see, like, you know, it's going to be really funny if people like take it apart and they're like, it's just a bin file with, wait a minute, is that an emu paradise.txt? Like, yeah. I'm like looking forward to that, and I'm like, I'm going to shake my head.
Yeah, it's going to be like torrent z dot, you know, TV ISO.
Didn't even bother to change the name. Didn't even bother to change the name.
That would be the funniest thing ever. Oh my God. But what do you guys think? What are your predictions for the PlayStation Classic Edition? We want to hear your thoughts, so leave us a comment down below or send us an email at show@offtopical.net. So Valve adds 39 new games to Proton's whitelist. Did you hear about this, man?
I did. It was awesome. 39 new games. You know, honestly, I'm surprised it's only 39, quite frankly.
Well, I like that they're being a little cautious and you know, going ahead and verifying that, you know, a batch of games at a time are rock solid. You know, it would be one thing if like they had started out like with like 100 games and then they only add 49 at a time or 39 at a time, but like you know, they started out with like 11 or something like that, 20 maybe.
Yeah.
And they're adding them slowly.
It's like we both have been playing Metal Gear Solid 5 a fair bit lately.
Twitch.tv/Zondak.
Let's get that little plug in there, didn't you?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's good, man. That was smooth. You slid that right in there.
Oh yeah, slide it in.
Yeah. Gosh. I hate. No.
Sorry. We've been playing Metal Gear Solid 5.
Yeah. So we've been playing some Metal Gear Solid 5, and I'm surprised that hasn't been whitelisted yet. Or has it? I haven't seen that whitelisted yet.
I don't think that it is.
Yeah, they're not whitelisted. It's not whitelisted. It's not listed as whitelisted, which is crazy because it works, except for Konami Online, which whatever.
Yeah, I think that kind of reliable glitch is going to preclude it from the list.
Mm-hmm.
Like that glitch happens for a lot of people, and I think that's going to prevent it from being added until it gets resolved.
Sometimes you do get signed in, and then it immediately kicks you right out. I have no idea what it's doing.
I wonder if that is like server-side checking to make sure you're not hacking, like anti-cheat stuff.
It could be, but it was in before they put in the multiplayer, which, you know, could have been pre-planned. But they do, because see, what you're missing out on with the online stuff, one is more GMP, which is the money in the game, which is awesome. But also you can run like weekly, like you invade other people's bases every week.
Yeah.
And if you complete whatever the objective is, it gives you like a really rare blueprint.
Oh, cool.
So it's actually really, really nice. Yeah. So it's a shame we don't get it. But yeah, they added a bunch of stuff. I mean, like Dark Souls 3 has been, you know, whitelisted, which is awesome. Dungeon of the Endless, which is a game we should actually play in co-op if you ever happen to get it.
I've never played it.
Really? It's actually a lot of fun. Really? It's by the Endless Space devs, Amplitude Studios. The studio who every single time they make a game, they have the word endless in it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they make Endless Legend, Endless Space, Dungeon of the Endless, and Endless Space 2. They have a thing for the word endless. It seems to be a thing. They should change themselves from Amplitude Studios to Endless Studios.
Branding.
And they don't support Linux, which I really hate them for that because they use Unity, and they have talked about in the past, like they constantly talk about maybe we'll support Linux. You know, they run little polls, you know, like should we support Linux, and they get thousands of yes, you should support Linux, and then they don't have to support Linux.
Yeah.
But they do make good games, so
yeah. I mean, yeah, I hadn't heard of that, but you know, we're definitely gonna check that out together. But a couple other games that I have heard of, Pac-Man Championship Edition
No.
DX Plus. That's my kind of game.
I know.
I like the pure fun, sit down, start playing, have a good time. That's my kind of game. Also, South Park: The Stick of Truth, Final Doom, and Lego Star Wars 3, The Clone Wars. Is that right? The Clone Wars?
Yes.
Lego Star Wars 3.
That's correct. Star Wars. Lego Star Wars 3, The Clone Wars. Yes, you're correct.
The Clone Wars. So, like, I was going to stream. I streamed last night as of recording this, and I really wanted to just buy Lego Star Wars and download it and play it on stream because, you know, in honor of this announcement. But I really like the Lego games. I went a long time ago, like right around the time I first started the channel. There was rumors that like Minecraft ripoff from Lego was gonna make it to Linux. And
I didn't
never
even know
materialized.
I didn't even know they had that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's like Lego Universe or something weird like that. I can't remember exactly. I have it on my Switch, but I never played it.
Of course.
But yeah, no, I'm pretty excited about this. I mean, like, there's also a game called Jamestown on this list.
You mean a game that came to Linux and then left Linux?
Well, I still have the binary.
Yeah, if you have, I think it's on Humble or something. You can still get the Linux binary, the old Linux binary. But yeah, they tore it off, which sucks because that's actually a fairly decent shoot 'em up.
Yeah, I actually played that. Like, that was one of the first Humble bundles I bought, I'm pretty sure. And I remember, like, playing it on Linux and being like, oh my God, this is awesome.
I know, right?
Yeah.
There's a game on the list that made it called Bullet Candy.
Oh, yeah?
It's by Charlie Games, I believe. It's actually made in Blitz 3D, if I remember correctly. The first game is Bullet Candy. It's pretty old. It might be made in Blitz Max, but I'm fairly certain that version was Blitz 3D, which is a really old game programming language that later, you know, Blitz Max took over and he stopped making Blitz 3D, but doesn't matter. Oh, also Blitz 3D is now like open source and everything. If you don't mind, you know, using DirectX 7. Yeah, it's pretty old.
Damn, dude.
Yeah, right?
This came out in 2007. Holy crap.
That's right. But he went on to make Son of Scoregasm. He develops on Linux, by the way. Son of Scoregasm is partially made on Linux, so it's pretty cool. Yeah. I follow him on Twitter and chat with him every now and again and constantly urge him to hurry up and make like his new game because I really like his shooters. He doesn't get a lot of sales, which really bums me out. I know his games are not as graphically impressive as others, but they are hard and they are so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah, so what games would you like to see be whitelisted for Proton / SteamPlay? We'd like to know your thoughts, so give us a heads up. Hit us up on Twitter at The Linux Gamer or at Raven67854, or you can send us an email, show@offtopical.net. All right, man. We got the Microsoft news because it has become tradition here that Microsoft does something in the tech world every week that we have to talk about. Microsoft just bought Obsidian and In Exile, two dev studios. They are adding them to their portfolio of game developers, and all I have to say is the glutton continues to consume.
Oh, tell me about it. You know, I'm going to be honest, and I know it's going to get kind of like, but I am not that bothered because I don't know. Like, I'm thinking that Microsoft is going to just let them continue developing the way they were. I think Microsoft has kind of learned its lesson that if you buy a studio, you don't like go in there, fire everyone, put your own people in, and then just decide, because it has been. They have actually, in my opinion, I think they finally learned that you don't pay a ton of money for something and then just break it. It took them a long time and a lot of billions of dollars to learn that lesson.
Oh yeah.
But on the other hand, you know, they've already kind of hinted / announced. I'm not sure if they've announced, but they've really hinted because they're using Obsidian's titles to show off that new Game Pass thing.
Yeah. Oh my God. Game Pass. Yeah. You know, the thing is, it's like, I feel you. I think that they have understood that you don't spend all this money to buy Rare and then ruin it right out of the gate.
Dude.
Like, for example, they have only slowly ruined Minecraft, for example. Right, so
kind of
they bought Minecraft or Mojang a couple years ago, and now they are, they still publish like Minecraft for the Switch because they know they'll make money that way. But they're slowly like deprecating the Java version of Minecraft, and they're not going to publish it on Linux. I'm pretty sure the new. Well, version.
We got the new launcher and stuff. So
did we really get the new launcher finally?
Yeah. See, what it is they want to move everything, to the Windows Store. Like, we've talked about this before in almost every single podcast because Microsoft can't stay out of the headlines. So,
right, yeah, they
really want to be Apple. Like, they don't want to be Apple in the sense that they don't want to just be a clone of Apple, but they want what Apple has. Like, Apple has this fan base that just buys literal filth. And that's what they want. Like, they want a lockdown platform. Remember when they kind of hinted that they were working on Windows Core, and then they got a bunch of backlash, and then we stopped hearing about it?
Yeah.
I firmly believe that was them, like, probing the market to see how it would react, like, as a rumor, and then they're like, ooh, people don't like this. We're not going to do this. Which I would argue is smart, because, Apple just tends to do whatever it wants, whether its fan base is happy or not, and I think their numbers are starting to finally dwindle on that.
Yeah.
But as far as what this has to do with Obsidian, it does somewhat worry me because Microsoft has been buying studios like crazy. And I think they're going to, like you said before, I think they're going to maybe push it to Game Pass.
Yeah. Well, so they're trying. See, the thing is, this is what's happening, okay? The new generation of consoles is coming up in 2020. Mm-hmm. And they objectively failed with the Xbox One, and they're trying to bolster their first party lineup because they literally only had Halo and Gears of War as first party titles. Like, they didn't have anything else but Halo and Gears of War. And it's like,
and they own Rare.
And they own Rare, for God's sakes. They haven't made a Banjo-Kazooie game in forever. Banjo-Kazooie is like a game I would pay like a lot of money to play, like a new good version of. I love those kind of games. Anyway, I could rant about that for an hour, but
maybe the N64 Classic will have Banjo-Kazooie.
I honestly, of all the Rare games, I think that's the one that's like most likely to come out on the N64.
Oh, we already know GoldenEye's coming out on that.
No, it's not.
Oh yeah, it is. It is so coming.
No, it is not.
Yeah, it is. I guarantee you it'll come. There's no way, as good as those classics have sold, there's no way Activision would not be like, yeah, we want our game on there.
Here's the thing: you have to get Activision on board. You have to get the company that owns GoldenEye on board. You have to get or James Bond, I mean, and you have to get Microsoft on board.
Well, they might still own rights to sell it. Like, they might not have to ask. It depends on the agreement when they sign to do it.
All right.
Like, they might have perpetual rights to that game to sell it wherever they want.
I really doubt it, man. If they had,
I wouldn't be surprised.
I will wager you,
regardless of Rare, because it's an emulator, they don't need Rare.
I will wager you $100. $100. There will not be GoldenEye on the N64 Classic Edition.
You're gonna cry.
All right, but is that a bet right there?
Oh yeah, bring it.
All right, $100.
You know what else is? You know what is going to guarantee be on there though? Like, absolutely guaranteed. Almost every single Nintendo game.
Oh man. Oh yeah, we're gonna get
Paper Mario, Mario Kart 64, Mario Party 2, both Legend of Zeldas.
Yeah,
we might not be seen for a few days. We need to hook one up to a computer and like bolt the door shut so like no one can disturb us, and just like fill the fridge with food and like just order pizzas and just shove them in the fridge, man.
Yeah, and just we could live stream it too.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. That I'm gonna probably live stream the PS Classic Edition.
Oh, you should. It's gonna be amazing.
Yeah. Anyway, we are way off topic. What the hell were we talking about? We were talking about
Microsoft buying. It's so bad. We go somewhere else to a happy place, you know?
Yeah, I mean, this news is miserable.
It is.
We're over here like talking
I
about
love In Exile because I'm a really old fan of those RPGs like, you know, Baldur's Gate, Torment's Tides of Numenera. You know, I'm a huge fan of those old games. I don't really care too much about Obsidian. I mean, because they're still going to make South Park because, I mean, South Park owns South Park. They're just paid to make South Park, like the Stick of Truth and all that. They're just paid to make it. You know, they don't have the rights to it. So Microsoft isn't going to affect that.
I think Ubisoft owns the rights to that game. And I don't think Obsidian made the second
I think they did.
South Park
I think
game.
they did.
They?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did. I mean, why not? They did a fantastic job on Stick of Truth. They did an absolute fantastic job. Let's see. Obsidian Entertainment made... Well, obviously, we know they made the first one.
It was made by Ubisoft San Francisco.
It is possible. But the writers of it are South Park Studios, or, you know, whatever they call themselves. So, you know, I don't really feel... They just need someone who can, you know, actually do a half-decent job at making it. And I think, you know, the South Park games would be great. You know, Pillars of Eternity was pretty great. I haven't played the second one. Fallout New Vegas was great, but I already own that. So, you know, I guess for me, Obsidian's not really going to affect me because they don't make Linux games except for a few, and the ones that they do, I'm just not as interested in, honestly. Or they're already out. And if they're already out, then, you know, Microsoft's not going to take that away.
Right. Well, so here's the thing. I'm looking right now at the list of first-party developers for Microsoft, right? You got 343, you got the Coalition, Turn 10, and Rare, right? Those were the ones, well, you know, but Bungie, you know, 343 came out of Bungie departing Microsoft.
Right.
But you have those four. They're kind of the OG, right? And then you have, I don't even know what that one is, Global Publishing, Microsoft Studios. You have Mojang, The Initiative, Undead, Playground Games, Ninja Theory, Compulsion Games, In Exile, and Obsidian. Of those, I've only ever played a game from Mojang. And I guess Ninja Theory. Didn't they do Ninja Gaiden?
I don't remember what Ninja Theory made.
But see, the thing is, it's like, there's a very deliberate, I think, aesthetic to those companies that Microsoft pick up on. Like, that's why Microsoft bought those companies to begin with. Like, they all have kind of like this, what do you call it? Like kind of a mature, like they all, like even just looking at their logos, it's kind of like,
they make games for adults.
Edgy. Yeah.
Also, Ninja Theory made Devil May Cry.
Oh, really?
The newer Devil May Cries, yeah.
Interesting. Are they Japanese?
They
gotta Google it now.
Are not? No, they're not.
Okay.
They're a British game studio.
That's interesting. Okay. Well, but here's the thing. I think it's challenge time right now. Let's create a hypothetical game development studio, okay, that Microsoft can't resist acquiring. We'll come up with two games, like two big games. We'll assume they sell like gangbusters. What are the games? What do they look like? And what's the logo look like? I have a couple ideas.
I don't know, honestly. I mean, yeah, Microsoft's just buying everything, honestly.
So here's my thoughts, okay? The game, the studio, the logo is like a combination of like Helvetica font, all capital letters, and then like graffiti looking underneath. Okay?
Okay.
Like so you have two typefaces, like a really graffiti font and Helvetica. And then you have, and I don't know exactly what the name is going to be, probably something like, you know, Incessant Games or something, you know, Compulsion. They already own, I was going to say Compulsion, but they already own Compulsion Games. That's funny. But, and the games that they would create, one of them is a tactical first-person shooter set in a sci-fi apocalypse, because obviously,
of course.
And the other one is like a kind of in homage to
Halo,
Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Oh, dude, I would love for a new Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Me too.
So many people have missed out on that game because Just far too many people have missed out on that game, either because they didn't like it at the time or they're just too young. I mean, technically there was a Conker's Bad Fur Day, I think in what, 2002, 2003, something like that, for the Xbox. Yeah. That one wasn't as good. No. I mean, it was basically the first one like remade.
But it was censored.
Yeah, I know. That's like why it wasn't as good.
More censored than the N64 version. That's like ridiculous.
The N64 version, if you call that censored, I question you, sir.
Well,
that game, I'm amazed that game came out on Nintendo. Good Lord. That game is very not for kids. Which of course, you know, I played it when I was like 9 years old or something, so
I played it when I was 15. I was kind of a late to that game there.
It's okay. Like, I played it at 9 and didn't understand half of it. I guess that's the beauty of being like so young. You don't get half of it. You're just running around like killing stuff. You're not paying attention to the dialogue and all the other stuff, so you just absolutely don't get it. Also, I want to point out that the Initiative is a new studio. Like, they didn't buy that one. It's totally new.
Really?
No one knows what they're making, which means they're probably making like a flagship title for the
Halo 8.
Whatever the new Xbox is.
Yeah.
And, you know, Crystal Dynamics, for example, the guy who used to helm Crystal Dynamics, Daryl Gallagher, if that's how you say his name. I apologize if you watch this podcast and I just butchered your name. I'm very sorry, sir. Anyway, he's the former head of Crystal Dynamics, and he's the new head of it.
Interesting.
Yeah, because Crystal Dynamics makes some pretty good games, so I guess we'll see. I mean, because, you know, they made Legacy of Kain. Remember Gex?
Yeah.
That was them.
Oh, really?
They made all the new Tomb Raiders after, like, what, 2006 or something, starting with Tomb Raider Legend?
Yeah.
So they've made some pretty sweet titles. Yeah, man, Gex was cool.
What's going on even? I'm Gex. I have a weird voice. What a silly game that is. All right. What do you guys think? Is this interesting? Are you guys excited about this news? Let us know. Or is this more like a kind of a more Microsoft being Microsoft? Let us know down in the comments, or send us an email or hit us up on Twitter. There's multiple ways to get in contact. Find the one that suits you best. This one's probably going to be a little bit of a short conversation. Not necessarily has to be. I know I kind of know how you feel about this already. Detective Pikachu. The trailer for the Pokemon Detective Pikachu movie dropped yesterday as of recording this. And boy, do I have some feels about it.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, dude.
That was such a weird trailer.
Oh my god.
So weird. I mean, part of me really like we've talked about this several times now because of your obsession with it.
I love Pokemon.
I know. Between you and Katie, I'm never not going to hear about this freaking trailer. Like
we're dragging you to the theater.
It's going to happen. I know. So what blows me away about it was so weird seeing like, because they're CG monsters, but they're like lifelike CG monsters, so they blend in really well.
Yeah.
And it's crazy weird. Like Mime, for example, was funny but very creepy, but very funny. I like that one.
Oh yeah,
that part of the trailer was hilarious.
That was really good.
Also, Ryan Reynolds. I mean, that's the only reason I'll go see it. It's just to see Ryan Reynolds play Pikachu.
Yeah, for real. There was a petition going around for Danny DeVito to do the voice of Pikachu, which would be freaking hilarious. But Ryan Reynolds is a great choice too. I mean, one of the things that so all right, I've come to terms with the way Pikachu looks. Okay,
he looks like Pikachu.
He looks like Pikachu, except he looks like a freakish, it looks like Pikachu fell down the uncanny valley.
It's the hat. That hat just doesn't belong on Pikachu. It's the hat.
Well, it's based on a video game, right?
Right.
Like, there's a Detective Pikachu game. I haven't played that, actually, but, the fact is...
all the Pokemon games to base off of, why that one?
Oh, I've heard theories from some people saying that it's the one that's, most grounded in our reality, and therefore it would cost the least amount of money to film.
But it's going to cost a fortune anyway because you have to put all the Pokemon in. So why don't you just do like Pokemon Yellow, the movie? Make it like a trilogy and like, or nah, you know what? Make it 8 movies. You know, each movie is each gym. Don't you say, oh my gosh, you would go and see every single one of those movies.
I probably would not. I don't really like franchise movies. Like, I get bored after the second movie.
You know that's what's going to happen with this, right? You know, honestly, considering when Pokemon got popular, I'm surprised there hasn't been a movie already. Like, an actual live-action movie. I'm very surprised it took, like, what, 20 years just about to become a live-action. I'm actually very surprised by that.
See, so there's a couple things. The first thing is, I really don't like how a lot of these Pokemon look. Like, it's just gross. Like, they look gross to me.
It's because they're realistic, I guess. Like you're used to seeing them in their cartoony shade where they don't really have skin texture and everything, or even like the appearance of fur
or scales.
Yeah, but they actually have that. You know they have that, but because of the look and style, it doesn't look like that. It's very flat, it's very smooth.
Well, I honestly would have preferred it if they looked like they did in the Pokemon Go trailers and promotional material, where they actually had.
Yeah, but then they'd look so out of place, though.
Dude, they look out of place anyway. They look like grotesque, like they like Uncanny Valley. So you know, okay, I sent you this picture earlier, but for the people who are listening, have you ever seen the Homer Simpson in real life Photoshop deal that someone made? Homer Simpson, if you haven't seen it, Google at your own peril. Type it in, Homer Simpson in real life. And it's like, it's the most intensely weird and disturbing thing based on a cartoon that I've seen until I saw this trailer. And now I'm like, oh my God, Pikachu's red cheeks don't make sense anymore. I just don't. And like all the fur, like the fur looks matted, especially on Jigglypuff in the trailer. Jigglypuff's all like, looks like a dirty stripper. And it's like, I'm like over here like, what the hell, man? Why does she look so dirty?
Yeah.
I just don't get it. But I'm going to watch it because it actually doesn't look terrible. I feel pretty good at judging a movie based on its trailer, and this doesn't look like god awful.
I'm not gonna have a choice, so I'm just gonna go see it, I guess.
Yeah, I'm more excited about this than I was about Fantastic Beasts, and I was pretty excited about Fantastic Beasts.
You know, it was a pretty good movie.
Yeah,
I went and saw that by myself.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Nice. I went with my girlfriend at the time. It was a pretty good movie.
When I went to see that movie, I didn't even know it was out. I just went to go see a movie and it was there, and I was like, huh, I didn't know they were making that. I had no idea that they were making a new Harry Potter movie.
Yeah, I'm kind of a fan of Harry Potter too. I like Harry Potter. I don't know. But what do you guys think? You guys excited about Pokemon Detective Pikachu? Do you feel like this isn't really material for the podcast? Let us know what you think. We are anxious to hear what you have to say. So Lunduke announces he's leaving social media at the risk of being a little too
Lunduke?
Lunduke? Isn't that a Green Day album? No. At the risk of being a little too drama alert, Lunduke announces he's leaving social media. Now, I have a couple thoughts about this, but I'm interested to hear what you think, Raven.
I don't really have a thought on it. I mean, it's Lunduke. This is Lunduke, because you know he's already left social media for 30 days anyway, and he's already disabled YouTube comments and then re-enabled them. So you know, I think I mentioned this last night. One thing I really like about Lunduke is he just kind of follows his heart wherever it takes him, regardless of whether or not it ends up being a good idea or not. He doesn't care. He just does it. But with his audience and the way he is about stuff, I don't think it'll affect him at all. I think he's right. It won't affect him because he's never relied on it. He just liked using it.
Right.
Which is kind of a nice stance, really, when you think about it. he's not dependent on some third party to get his message out there. He's always relied on himself to get the message out there. So it's kind of nice in a way.
Yeah. Well, so like he said a couple things in his announcement video. One of the things he said was that when he stopped using social media for 30 days, there was no negative impact of any kind. Now, I'm assuming he's talking about his channel there, but also, you know, in his personal life. He said it went great. He slept better. He was more productive and happier, which I've actually, when I deleted my Facebook account, I felt happier. I felt better. I was more productive, you know, like I have to agree with him there. But then he said that when at the end of that, he just went right back to social media, right? And he bargained with himself that he would only use social media when he was at a computer. But that didn't work because, you know, he has it on his phone.
Which is also a computer, so...
Yeah, right. So it's like, I don't know. I applaud him for his decision. I think that it's a great thing. I mean, you know, social media is designed, and he mentioned this in his video, social media is designed to be addictive. And he knows it. We all know it. And you have to, you know, and for someone like him, I mean, that's his decision. He wants to leave it, you know, like cut it out completely from his life. And I think that that's awesome. And honestly, like if I got rid of my Twitter account, if I get rid of what else? I think I use any other social media. Twitter, Instagram. I barely use Instagram. YouTube. I mean, like YouTube is the only thing that would like make an impact in my life.
Yeah. So would Twitch.
If I stopped using it. Twitch, yeah. I feel like Twitch and YouTube are kind of different, but, you know, that's something for another topic, I guess. But, like, the fact that if I stopped using Twitter, it wouldn't make a huge impact. I wouldn't feel it on my channel, I don't think. I wouldn't, you know, I don't use Reddit. I don't use Facebook. I don't use LinkedIn. I have a funny story about LinkedIn because he was talking about, in his video, he said, I think I'm just going to leave LinkedIn alone like I always do, you know, something like that. And
I have him on LinkedIn. For some reason, we're like connected on LinkedIn. And I was actually thinking about this the other day. I was like, how do I have Brian Lunduke on my LinkedIn? I was like really confused.
Oh my
God, know?
That's
great. I was like, this doesn't make any sense because, you know, we don't really cross paths. But somehow we're connected on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But I'm like Brian, like I signed into my LinkedIn like a couple months ago and updated it because I just got tired of how out of date it was. Yeah. And then I've since signed out and I've never been back.
Oh yeah.
Except for to check that stupid, like I thought it was a joke, but Apple was offering me an interview to join their driver development team to improve Metal and all, and I was like,
damn, dude.
No.
Yeah.
I was like, no.
Oh my God, no way. See, I had a LinkedIn page. I made it in like, you know, 2010 or 2011 or something.
Oof.
I updated it twice, right? When I got my current job, my day job, and then when I started my YouTube channel. And I hadn't touched it since then, really. And then someone from my day job, like this company that like, you know, kind of like Yelp or whatever. I don't remember who it was. I think it was Podium, maybe. They asked me, they called and asked for me because I was like the guy who does the social media and stuff. And he's like, oh, I do use social media, but it's at work. I don't use it in my, you know, personal time. Anyway, so I'm the guy that does all this stuff. I'm the IT guy, whatever. And this guy calls and he's like, oh, hey, how's it going? You're Gardiner? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, hi, I just want to sell you my product. And I'm like, sorry, no thank you. He calls back like a week later and he had like creeped my LinkedIn page. And then he asked me if my boss had ever seen any of my videos. And it felt like a vague threat. Like, yo, if you don't go along with what I say, I'm going to send an email to your boss. And show your videos.
That's so wrong. I'd be like, do it, baby.
Dude.
I'll do it with you. I'll be right there on the phone.
I said, she has seen my videos and she's very proud of me. And then I deleted my LinkedIn account and I still get emails from them, dude. I still get emails saying,
yeah, you got to unsubscribe, man.
Your friend Carl wants to connect with you on LinkedIn. And it's like, I don't have a LinkedIn page. You can go F off.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I hate LinkedIn. Anyway. social media, like I hate it. It's creepy. Like I get people creeping on me all the time, and it's like you know, I'm glad that when I Google myself, nothing comes up or very little comes up.
Yeah, I don't really have much anymore. And when Google Plus dies, there'll be even less. I'm looking forward to that day when it finally fully gets shut down.
Yeah.
That'll be beautiful. But, you know, honestly, the only thing I use Twitter for anymore, Twitter, by the way, for everyone listening, outside of YouTube and obviously Twitch, I don't have anything else except for Twitter for social media.
Yeah.
I don't have a Reddit account. I've never had a Reddit account. My friends claim I have a Reddit account, but I checked all of my emails and I can't find Reddit. So if I have a Reddit, I don't even know I don't even know like the actual, you know, account. Like I have no idea where I would even find it. So yes.
I had a Reddit account and I deleted it.
Really? Yeah, I've never had a Reddit account. I literally can't think of a time when I had one.
There is a Raven67854 on Twitter.
Yeah, which is weird because that's not me.
Yeah. August 20th, 2013 is when you created your account. Or when they created the account.
Someone must have created the account.
There's nothing liked and no posts. It's very strange.
Whatever, they can have it. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't do Reddit. I don't do social. I've never done social media. I guess in a way, kind of like Lunduke. It's like, you know, like it. I don't know. It's not going to affect me. I mean, I use it to keep track of news, but we've expanded that RSS feed so much, it's completely unnecessary almost. Except for getting news like almost immediately, which we don't really need anyway. I mean, the RSS feed that you've grown pretty much has everything. And it's going to just get bigger.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I use RSS through my Nextcloud.
Yeah.
I don't need Facebook's stupid algorithm. I don't need Twitter's freaking algorithm to tell me what news they think is important. I use I subscribe to it, and it might be my own personal filter bubble, but still, I mean, I think it's important to like to get your news sources in order and to check them regularly. And that's why I use my my Nextcloud to do RSS reading.
You know what I miss? You know what I really miss?
What do you miss?
And I'm sure Lunduke might feel sort of similar, but he might be going like more like, you know, BBSs than, you know, what I'm about to say. I miss the old days of running like a PHP or an SMF forum.
Yeah.
Like I really miss that. I actually really would love to start one up again, but I just don't see the point. Because everyone uses that that new thing, which I find has like the worst interface ever. What's the name of that new open source messenger that everybody uses? Not a messenger, but you know, it's like a forum. A lot of websites use this new forum. I can't remember the name of it. I know there's someone in who's listening to this right now who probably knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
But I miss the old days of like PHP forums. And the reason for that is I guess you could kind of say that yeah, they were or are, but there was like what? There was Discourse. That's the name of the new thing that everybody uses, Discourse. I don't like Discourse. I think it's ugly. There you go. I don't like the look of it. Like everything's like a big list. I miss the old days of, you know, proper forums. I would love to run a forum again someday. Because I guess back to my original point is like social media is like throwing yourself into like a pen filled with piranhas. You might come out alive, but you're going to be missing a bit of yourself.
Yeah.
And those old days of forums, you know, it was a community. Even if you were hated, you were still part of the community. You know, so, you know, you still had bad people and sometimes they would get banned and all, but, you know, there was still a community. And that sort of stuff we don't really have that anymore. There's not a community on Twitter.
Right. There's like little groups.
There's just a bunch of angry people waiting for someone to say something wrong so they can like attack them, which I find to be like just the worst thing ever. It really bothers me.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, it's like all you have on Facebook and Twitter are like clicks, and people like just, it's like a high school cafeteria and everyone's just treating each other like crap. And it's like, I don't have time for that. I use Twitter like to talk to people who care to talk to me. You know what I'm saying? Like that's why I use Twitter. And sometimes it's fun, But like for the most part, I don't use. And I think that Brian is right. Like social media is like fundamentally a flawed idea. It's like
it's cancer. It just appeals to the worst in human nature.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Especially and I think that there is a place for something sort of like social media, but the fact that it's like the people who are behind social media make it addictive, like they do it on purpose, and everybody knows that they're addicted to it, and they can't, but they don't necessarily know it consciously. And I feel like even just that sours all of the discourse that goes on there, if you can even call it discourse at certain points. Just the fact that, like, you know, everybody knows deep down that they're just miserable because they're addicted to social media. And it's like, at a certain point, it's like people just take out that frustration that they have because they're addicted on other people on the platform. I don't know.
No, you're right. I mean, there have been some like really decent cases of social media. Like the fire that just recently happened in California, like on Twitter, people like banded together to like organize and, you know, send stuff and like help manage finding people, sending supplies, all sorts of stuff. And that stuff is great. Don't get us wrong. Social media has done good, but I would argue on the whole, it's done more bad than good. I
would agree.
Which is pretty sad because it should do more good than bad, but that's just not the world we live in.
Right. Well, I think the fact that, like, I mean, you and I were talking about this several times over the course of the podcast, where it's like there needs to be consequences, right? Like if you're on a BBS, right, and you misbehave, people know who you are. You know what I'm saying? It's a small community of people who know other people. And so, like, you know, they recognize your screen name. And even if you change your screen name, you know, people are going to still kind of recognize the way you type and the way you talk and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And you'll get kicked out if you misbehave. If you treat people with disrespect, you're gone. But, like, that's not how it is. That's not how it is on social media. Because, like, you can get away with anything. I mean, part of the problem that with Jake and Logan Paul, right, is that they use YouTube like it's social media, and it is in a certain to a certain extent, but at the same time it's like, you know, it's a place where creators, there's like a clear delineation between a creator and a consumer on YouTube, you know, and I feel like that's a distinction. But the fact that YouTubers don't have control or don't have like the ability to kick people off like Jake and Logan Paul, that's like, that's part of the problem. I just kind of lost my train of thought, but I think you kind of see where I'm going, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's a community, and with that community, you know, people feel more invested in it too. They're less likely to, I mean, don't get me wrong. I remember like my forum days, there were always the assholes, but they would never like just outright lash out. I mean, sometimes you would see those people, but they would always be new and then they would disappear. But like people who've been there a while, even if they're, you know, complete and total asses, they don't really lash out too much because they're part of the community. They're invested. They've put time. They don't want to just disappear.
Right. Yeah, and I think that it's like important that there are standards in your community, that you know, you belong to a community. There are standards that community has, and standards are really, I mean, it's really important for things to be enforced and understood by everyone in the community. And the fact that social media is run by these monolithic companies that only gain from people being on the platform, and they don't really care if people are behaving themselves, you know, like that's a problem. That's part of the problem with social media. And, you know, I don't know. It's frustrating because, like, there is this huge problem and there doesn't feel like there's much recourse. And it makes me sad. I don't know. I just folded my arms and pouted. I don't know. What do you guys think? Is social media a scourge upon humanity, or is it a cancer that infects humanity? You can send us an email at show@offtopical.net. All right. Is it time for listener comments, Raven?
Yes, it is.
Your favorite segment and mine as well. Mir Ashif on YouTube asks, why are Linux desktops not growing? I'm talking about like real growth. And I think this is an interesting question. I feel like we've talked about something like this before, but I think that this boils down to, like what you were saying earlier, an education problem.
Yep. I think it's truly an education problem. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of different reasons, you know. Windows has gotten super cheap. People have Stockholm syndrome with Windows. Lack of available software. The fact that Linux is still seen as, oh, you have to open a terminal?
Open a terminal? What's that?
If I have to hear that one more time, I swear I'll claw my eyes out, man. Seriously. I'll just be like, dude, you know what? I'm a blind monk now.
Yeah. Oh, there's some comments that I get, like, comments on, like, one of my really old videos, 6 Reasons PCs Are Better with Linux. People still see that video and comment on it. And it's like, I won't use Linux because I like having a desktop. Like, seriously, people leave comments like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you don't understand. Like just look at some of my other videos where you can actually see what my desktop looks like, and it's freaking gorgeous.
Yeah, and you know, honestly, the Linux, I actually blame the Linux Foundation for this. The Linux Foundation is great. They do a lot of great and fantastic work, so I don't want anyone trying to kill me over that. But I do blame them for the lack of desktop growth. They don't care about the desktop. They care about servers. IoT devices, which is disgusting that they even care about that. They care about the cloud. Basically, they care about things that make money.
Right.
Which, you know, is understandable. Linux needs money to grow. Therefore, you need to make money. It's that double-edged sword that, you know, everyone hates, that, you know, you just kind of have to have it. You know, so I'm not shitting on them or anything. But I am going to blame them on one thing. I wish that they would invest any amount of time in education. And I'm not talking about their stupid scholarships. No, I don't care about the scholarships. I'm not talking about adults. I'm talking about kids in school, like public schools. Why are there no Linux computers at public schools? Why?
Right.
I mean, you know, you have to think. When my dad, for example, was in school, his computer classes were 100 times better than mine. They had programming and all kinds of stuff that they learned while they were in school. And keep in mind, I don't live in some, you know, big inner city, you know, where like the schools have thousands of students and they're significantly more wealthy than, you know, where I live. You know, I don't live in like New York City or anything. I just live in the middle of nowhere in Virginia. Yeah. I mean, it's like, come on. But I will say this, that's what they had in the 80s, you know? They had Mac machines, don't get me wrong. Well, I don't know what he had when, you know, he was in school, but when I was growing up in the 90s, we had like Mac 9 machines, and then, you know, the later Mac 9 machines, you know, like the big boat like anchor like things I love to call a boat anchor because they're so freaking huge and heavy. You can literally use one as a boat anchor. Right. The ones with the crazy see-through colors and all that, you know, and they had that. Oh God, I love those things. By the way, if I could buy one, which I will one day, I'm gonna buy one.
Nice.
But back to my original point, it starts at the school. You know, you look at most of us who still use Linux to this day, we started using Linux at least in our teen years.
Oh, yeah.
Some of us found it later in life, but honestly, if you've been using Windows for 20 years, why would you want to move? Like, honest question. Like, ask yourself, if you've been using Windows for 20 years, why would you want to move? And you can't say privacy because, quite frankly, everything spies on you these days. So it's like, what are you going to do? Abandon your phone? You know, all this other stuff? Like, you just can't. And it goes back to earlier when we were talking about social media. You know, people are trapped in this void of, you know, everything is basically the same. You know, your phone's spying on you. Your operating system's spying on you. Who knows what else is spying on you? You know, so privacy just doesn't work. You can't use that argument. Windows people are so tired of hearing that argument, it just doesn't work. But it's mostly familiarity. People are really familiar with Windows. And of course, the main reason for that is most schools have Windows. And it sucks. You know, because basically schools, public schools, are just training you to be an office drone. Like that's what computer class is now. Computer class now, for the most part, is teaching you how to use Word. So you can be like a secretary or an office worker who just sits there with Excel all day. There's no reason you can't do that with Linux. I mean, you actually can't because of, you know, .x encryption and all that lovely stuff. And I don't know what the Excel extension is, but it's also encrypted, so it probably also ends with an X.
XSLS or something like that.
See, it ends with an X. No, it ends with an S, but whatever. It's encrypted. So, you know, in OpenOffice and LibreOffice, you know, they try to keep up. They never fully do. They do a decent job, though, but they don't do a perfect job.
Yeah.
So, you know, it just boils down to an education problem. I would love it if the Linux Foundation would encourage, in particular, U.S. schools to carry Linux. Because would be amazing. Because even if you only get, you know, 2 out of 1, you know, let's be super generous here. 1 out of every 10 kid. I was going to say 2 out of every 10 kids, but let's be realistic. If you get 1 out of every 10 kids, you know, that's going to grow. And you're just going to keep growing. And before you know it, half the kids will probably be using Linux. I mean, that's just my opinion on it.
I think you're absolutely right about that. You get kids interested in computers, you know, and like for the most part, when you get a kid that's interested in computers, they're interested in video games, right?
Right.
And it's like, if you can hook kids on this idea that no, but like you can actually use your computer. Like you can do things cool, like really awesome things with your computer. Then that's how you get kids to be interested. That's how you get Linux to grow. Because when I was out in Denver, right? I think it was the second time I went to System 7. No, it was the first time I went to System 76. You know, we were having like this round table discussion, right? And they were talking about like the Internet of Things, okay, and all this stuff. And I was saying the Internet of Things is kind of baloney. I don't buy it, you know, all this stuff. And you know, I said because my mom will never have a smart refrigerator. And the most compelling argument I've ever heard in my life for the Internet of Things came from Carl Ritchell. And I don't think he was arguing for it, but he was saying, dude, the future isn't your mom. The future is kids. And I was like, oh my God, he's so right about that. Like, kids are the future. And if you get, like, the thing that I'm, like, most concerned about is that kids today are using iPads instead of PCs. Like, that's something I'm really scared about because the iPad, you know, even Android devices are so locked down and so, like, ingrained in this one ecosystem. But then I see, like, kids like my friend Isaac, who he's I remember I met he was my ex-girlfriend's cousin or something like that, and we would go visit their family, and he knew that I loved computers and he loved them too, but he never really had a computer of his own. And one day his uncle bought him a Raspberry Pi, and up until this point he had only ever been like using his tablet or playing an Xbox, you know? And the fact that he had this Raspberry Pi got him so interested in Linux. He was like, no, but like I can do all this cool stuff. And I'm like, I know, dude, it's really cool. And he's like maybe 10 at this time, you know, 10, 11, 12, something like that. And right now, I think he's probably 15 or something, but he's like really into Linux. He loves Linux. He just loves computers. And I think the Raspberry Pi and little cool little devices like that are how you get kids if they're not being taught in school this stuff. So these little kind of, even if the hardware is not open source, if it's running Linux, that's how you get kids really interested in it.
Oh, absolutely. And you know, like when I was in school, for example, our computers, and I mentioned this in a previous podcast, had GIMP on it. And you know, like kids love to create, you know?
Yeah.
So like we have GIMP, we have Inkscape, we have Krita. You know, we obviously have programming tools because, you know, we have all the programming tools because Linux is really meant for programmers. So,
right.
you know, we have all of that. And it's like, and it's all free. It's actually free. There's no strings attached free. It's just free. So, you know, and, you know, so it would be nice if, you know, classes became, you know, I think kids should learn how to use Word and Excel because they should learn how to later on in their life use those tools. Because, you know, the future is not going to be writing everything on paper, honestly. That's going to become a novelty for people, like literally a novelty. It kind of already is if you think about it.
Oh, yeah.
So
I was on a dating app the other day, just to derail your point.
Yes.
I was on a dating app and I saw this girl's profile and it said, if you have bad handwriting, don't even bother. And I was like, who uses handwriting anymore?
Well, I have the worst handwriting ever. I've always had bad handwriting. I've always been lazy. Like even in the 90s, I was like, whatever, I just use a computer, which is funny because I didn't have a computer. But, you know, I guess little tiny me, one, was just trying to get out of having to do it. And also maybe somewhere thought, hey, you know, somewhere along the way, computers are really going to be needed. And turns out, you know, there was no really writing in university. There was just, please submit this crappy project that you did in a Word document. But why? I don't have Windows.
Right.
School was very hard without Windows, actually, by the way, for everyone listening. But back to my topic, you know, like kids love to create. Like my dad recently got remarried, and she has 2 boys, and they're like I think the oldest one is like 14 years younger than me. So you know, there's a huge difference. Yeah, she had them in her 30s. But he went to a coding camp for a week. And I'll have to find it to you and send it to you, but it's really cool. Dude, at his camp, I wish I had stuff like this when I was growing up, because they didn't have stuff like this when I was growing up. Even if they did, I probably wouldn't have been allowed to go anyway. But basically, that would be cool. They built a computer, like a laptop, using a Raspberry Pi from scratch. And they assembled it and everything.
Wow.
Put the hard drive in there. They installed it. I mean, he like bricked it somehow, and then I had to fix it because he couldn't fix it because apparently he didn't pay good enough attention. But that's not the point. The point is it was really cool, and he really liked it. And he wanted to play GTA 5 on it, which is funny because for a whole lot of reasons. One, his mom's not going to let him play GTA 5. And secondly, it's a Raspberry Pi, so it can't play GTA 5.
Oh, my God.
I know, kids, right?
Yeah.
But it's interesting. He wanted to play the PC version of GTA 5 for like, mods or whatever. Not, I don't know. Whatever. The point is, once he got past the fact that he couldn't play GTA 5, he found out he could at least play Minecraft. You know, they have that free Raspberry Pi version or whatever. I don't know if they still have it, but he found it somewhere.
Yeah.
So he was playing with that, and he does Python programming now.
That is so cool.
Right, and he did that on his own. Like you said with the kid, you know, like he didn't just, you know, like someone didn't tell him he should do this. He just did it on his own naturally.
Right. Yeah.
And you know, Python's not a half bad language to start with. If you know, it's pretty strict with the white spaces. So, you know, but he just makes things with it, and that's all he does now.
Yeah.
He lives on that thing.
I also lament the fact that, like, you know, a lot of games are pretty locked down, because I got my start doing like programming and scripting and stuff with Red Alert, you know, Command and Conquer, like being able to like get in and edit the rules.ini file and changing stuff, how the, you know, how the units would, you know, behave. Like that was a formative experience for me as a computer user, as a nerd, as a gamer. And like the fact that like a lot of games don't allow that, or most games now are being played on console. It's like, you can't do that. You don't have access. You can't get at it. And like, that's such a terrible thing.
And if the console does have mods, looking at you, Fallout 4, they're paid, only paid.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I don't think the new Fallout 76 is going to be as moddable as people think. I think it's going to be super locked down.
Oh,
and I think it'll only have paid mods. Like, you'll be able to make your mod and test it for free, but I think they're going to just only really allow paid mods, which sucks. I mean, let's face it. Bethesda titles are great because of their mods. They're not great because Bethesda makes them.
Right.
I mean, yes, Bethesda's the one who makes them, but I got to be honest with you. Fallout 76, for example, is buggy. I mean, you remember me talking about that. A friend of mine wanted to play it. I mean, they send data. They send the data just as raw text encryption. What's that? They expose your IP address. They have no server-side checking. And then, the guy who exposes it all, Bethesda calls him a liar. And I'm like, I'm not a liar. I played that. What little I played of that beta, there was a dude running around speed hacking.
Yeah.
And it's not even speed hacking. He just set his client to run really fast, and then he decided to just zip around the map. It's crazy. Not even hacking. It's just lame. And not for him. It was hilarious. He was just like running around the map. I think he died because he went too fast and like flung himself over the cliff. It was funny, but the point is like, they don't really know how to program. They just know how to make games, which is really weird for a studio that's been around so long. And also comes from the DOS era. But that's beside the point. But back to why it's not growing. Education.
Yeah.
That is, hands down, education is the reason anything pretty much doesn't grow for the most part. It always boils down to education. Education is one of the most important things ever.
I would agree. I also think that Linux desktops are growing.
Yeah, it's a slow and steady climb.
Yeah, I mean, the next question that we have is from Eraz on Discord, and he asks, will the year of the Linux desktop be next year? And I feel like that kind of dovetails into this, because to be honest, we are approaching critical mass. Like, the Linux desktop community is approaching the moment, like the tipping point where we will be the dominant default, and it will only be a matter of moments in a lifetime. I mean, we are. I really think that, like, and I think Eros was asking that question in jest, but I really think that I don't think next year is going to be the year.
No,
of Linux
next
desktop.
year won't be. It won't be next year.
2020, late 2020, early 2021, dude. My dudes listening to this podcast, mark my words, we are going to get there. Like, I think that's when we're really going to start to see big adoption from people, is like, late next year, late 2020, or maybe early 2020. We're going to be seeing it. We're going to be seeing people picking it up, trying it out, doing different things, because Microsoft's getting out of the operating system business. I'm surprised that we even had the discussion we did about Microsoft buying Obsidian earlier, because honestly, I feel like they're trying to get away from the consumer market in general. And I would have put money on the idea that they were going to like either abandon or spin off the Xbox. Now, I mean, I honestly just see Microsoft leaving consumer spaces. And like, so there's not going to be many alternatives. And the people who are going to still be using desktops in late 2020 are going to be nerds, like people who are like hardcore PC gamers. And Microsoft's not going to be supporting Windows 10. Maybe in a couple years, not 2020, but like PC gamers aren't going to have much of an option coming up within the next 5 to 10 years. They're not going to have an option. And I see people like critical mass being achieved late 2020. That's my thoughts on the issue.
Yeah, I think
you're not as optimistic as I am.
No, I'm not nearly as optimistic as you are. You're very, very optimistic. I mean, we are approaching critical mass, but we still need the spark that lights it. We don't have that yet. And it will come from the outside, I feel. Microsoft will do something, most likely.
What do you mean spark?
Like, we need something that lights the flame that actually makes us explode in numbers aggressively. Yeah. And that could come from, like, the next set of consoles might be, like, cloud focused, or they might be really locked down even further than they are right now, or they might be focused on the wrong thing again, which Microsoft might have learned that lesson. Or it'll end up coming from the Windows side. Like Windows will come out and they'll drop Win32. And I know we've talked about this before, but Microsoft needs to drop Win32. They just can't. Like that bloated, ancient, buggy mess of a thing is like their version of X11. It needs to die, but it can't die. Like it really needs to go away. Now I would argue in the case of X11 just needs to be fixed. But considering Win32 is closed source, it just needs to die because it's closed source. But also too, you know, it would really make Windows a lot more secure if they could get rid of Win32.
Oh yeah.
Because,
no doubt about
but then you would be stuck with just the Windows Store, which is what they want, which is what Valve is very afraid of. I mean, could you imagine if the next version of Windows only has the Windows Store?
I mean, I can very much imagine that.
I mean, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I mean, I'm sure some people might wish for it, but it's not going to happen. If it does happen, it will literally be the death of Windows. There is no way you'll be able to convince gamers. This is what
the next version of Windows is going to be, okay? This is the next version of Windows.
$5.99 a month.
Well, okay. No, yeah. The next version of Windows is going to be locked down. You can't install anything unless you pay anything outside the store, unless you pay like a monthly fee for a pro license. And the pro license is going to be something like ridiculous.
Oh yeah, it'd be like $9.99
to $20 a month.
I guarantee you, like the home license will be $4.99, and like the pro license will be like $7.99 or something like that.
Yeah, and the home license won't allow you to install.
Yeah, and then you'll have like
a
and then you know you'll probably have like a free version where like you can get Windows Pro for free, but it has ads.
Something maybe like that. Yeah. The thing about ads, is that Microsoft would have to like actually manage like and spend money on having people like curate the ads and get the ad, you know, like actually get companies to like place ads. And I don't know if that's a business they want to be in. I don't know if they do that now or not, but like I don't know. I just don't know if that would be
They have ads already
profitable.
in Windows 10. They have ads in Windows 10.
Yeah, but they're not like ads.
Yeah, they are.
What? Really? Like
they have ads, dude. For example, if you want to play, I think they have ads in the like, you know, when you open up like the little launcher thing, you know, when you hit the Windows icon where Start used to be, they have ads there. But like if you play like a lot of like Windows Store stuff, and I'm not talking about third party stuff, I'm talking about first party. Like if you play freaking Solitaire, it has ads to play Solitaire.
Dude, I literally called that like several years ago.
You didn't have to call it. They did it. They even announced that they were doing it. They were proud of it. It's creepy.
Several years ago though, dude.
They were proud that they did it. It wasn't well received, by the way.
Yeah.
It was one of the things that really wasn't well received. Like especially cuz like a lot of older people were like, "Dude."
Yeah. They suck. Not old people, Windows, Microsoft. Anyway, what do you guys think about these comments? Do you have any do you have a question or a comment that you'd like to hear us talk about on air? Send us an email, show@offtopical.net, or you can drop a query over in the show notes on Patreon, patreon.com/thelinuxgamer. You can always check out the latest episode of the show at offtopical.net or on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/thelinuxgamer. I want to thank Raven for being here with me today, as always.
Always happy to be here.
I want to thank you guys for listening and tuning in and just hanging out with us. And this has been the Off Topical Podcast. My name's Gardiner, and let's do it again soon.